Welcome to part
9.
where we get this thing on the ground. The first thing we gotta do is get these tires installed on these Hartke wheels.
It's time to get this thing on the ground. A lot that goes into getting a car on the ground, more than just throwing wheels and tires on it. You're talking about suspension, subframes, axles, bearings, and of course, we're not gonna have the full weight of the car because we're not gonna have an engine yet, but that's okay because the engine is going to be following very soon. Remember, these are 3-piece Hartke wheels. The front sporting 225 45 17s. The rears are 245 40 17s. And we're gonna be getting this rubber on right now. Well, there's my first problem. I can't get the valve stem in because the hole is just too small. The hole's too small for the valve stem. That doesn't necessarily mean that the valve stem is not gonna work. It means that the hole is just too small. We just have to widen it out.
And we got our rear sway bar installed. That's a 19mm with the upgraded Garageaholic holders that go right through the trunk. So that's in. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And we have to get our rear subframe in with our trailing arms. We've got our eccentric bushings, our eccentric hardware here, so we can have full adjustability on the rear subframe. Obviously, we got the front subframe to install as well with the front sway bar. We have all the bushings and all new coated hardware. It's really nice and very clean. And we are going to get this thing sitting on the ground completely.
So before I install this in the car, which is really the easy part here, I want to make sure that it's roughly aligned because accessing some of these, especially closest to the subframe bushings, is really difficult. So you need a professional shop to do this alignment. But I also don't want to install it and have the wheels all hokey. So I want to make sure that I at least make sure that the caster and the camber relative to both sides is exactly the same. And also in the middle ground of where the center of the hole normally is. So that adjustment up and down, left and right can be done. And something not to be overlooked, this is obvious probably, but this is the adjusting side where you can adjust the eccentricity. See, here is you adjust, it goes higher and lower, higher and lower. And then when you have it set in position, which in this case, I'm going to install it just like that, right smack in the middle. Then you hold this one and you only tighten the nut.
All right, the rear is finally in. Everything is installed correctly. The correct spacer is on, all new hardware. Obviously, we're gonna clean up the end of the nut, or the end of the bolt there, but everything is installed. Everything seems to glide and move real nice. And now we can kind of move on to the front. The front's super easy. As you can see, we've already done the aluminum control arms. We've already installed that. That way we can install the whole subframe at once.
We've got our hardware right there, so we can bolt that on. We don't have our control arm bushings yet, and we don't have our suspension yet, but that's coming very, very soon.
All right, so the rotors are on, the parking brake is on, the parking brake cable is on. I mean, we got a lot of clips and things to do in order to get that completely seated, but it's on. We still need to do the brake calipers, which is coming up next, but that's not really what I wanted to show you. Here's what I really wanted to show you. Yeah, look at that thing sits. Holy moly. I mean, obviously I don't have any suspension on yet, but this thing just looks so good. These are 245s, and I think that this is actually a 10-inch wide tire, not 9, because that 245 looks pretty stretched. But it tucks in perfectly, and it spins freely. Bearings working good. Still need the axles. I mean, I can't get over how this thing looks. I just can't. So one of the things I like to do at every stage of the process is to check to make sure that the air jacks are gonna work. But I wanted to just see how low at least the rear air jack goes to make sure that it'll go low enough to allow the car to lift off the ground. As you can see, the tire is about 6 or 7 inches off the ground as it is right now. So let's hook up the air and get this thing fully detented and see how low that air jack goes. Wow. As you can see, the distance there is much lower than the distance there. So even if, what that means is that, yeah, look at that. Even if I added a little bit more fender gap up there, I actually have plenty of throw in order to get that air jack down all the way and actually lift the car. So it's in excellent shape. So we've got our front sway bar and it looks beautiful. Oh, everything on this blue is beautiful. They did a great job with the powder coating. We've got our front links. We've got actually these are not the front links. These are the rear links, sorry. And we've got our front poly bushings and we can install that on there, but I really do need to get the right links for this first. We're just gonna use E30 M3 links. I think that'll work out the best and I think we're gonna be in good shape. All right, we've got our front suspension in. We've got our sway bar in. That was pretty easy, getting that installed, getting that all lubed up. We've got a lower control arm, brand new lollipop with a centering bushing. It's just rubber for now. We're gonna be replacing that rubber bushing with an offset poly bushing in the future. But for now, we're just gonna keep it like that. Super easy to replace. So we got some brand new axles and we got some brand new suspension from Ground Control. We needed to acquire some 30 by 1.5 millimeter hex bolts to hold our new hubs in, but that's not a big deal. We can do that. This is a really nice set from Ground Control. This is over a $3,000 set. It is a double adjustable, fully built custom E30 M3 front suspension. And what this allows you to do is you can actually put that on a regular E30 and now you have 5 bolt, just like an E30 M3 on the front. And the rears are always a different story in terms of five lug swap, but we've got our separate springs and shocks, so we're in good shape there. That should be pretty easy to install. So let's try getting the fronts on. Then we'll take the wheel off and get the rears on, and then we're gonna set this thing down and see what it looks like. All right, the rear is on and supported by the suspension, and the front is also on and supported by the suspension. Now, one concern that I saw here, but I'm not too concerned about it, is that when you turn to the right, the tire hits the side skirt and the fender. I think that that's being done by 3 reasons. First is that the tire is swooped down. The whole thing is down, and it's hitting that, whereas if it were higher, it probably would be more up here, which is fine. So that might contribute to it. The second thing is that I'm not using offset control arm bushings. I'm using just regular stock for now. I'm actually going to be swapping them out later when I get offset control arm bushings that'll push this a little bit more forward. The third thing is the tire size. This is a 225/45/17, which I actually had in my BMW, my E30, a while ago, and it was just fine. So I'm really not concerned about this tire size. So I think it's going to be just fine. If I have to go to a 225/40, I will. All right, did the driver's side here, got the rear on, and I got the front on. There's a spare wheel in there for reasons that I will rectify later. And we've got this side, which I will show you shortly. Let's get the trunk closed, let's get the car on the ground, and just see how the stock suspension height that came from Ground Control actually sits. And see, maybe we need to make it a little lower or a little higher. Definitely have to fix the placement of this front wheel, but the rear looks really, really good. I mean, the tire size, the offset is perfect. We can even go a tiny bit lower and have this tire tuck in nicely, but honestly, I think that is perfect fitment right there. So yeah, we need to make some adjustments to the front. The rears are okay, and yeah, I mean, in the next episode, I don't know if we're gonna do it in the next episode, but I think for now, that's really good progress. I want to see if this thing actually, with the suspension the way it is going to lift on the air jacks. And we can try that in the next episode. So stand by, tell your friends. Thanks for watching, guys. My name is Frank from Garageaholic.